Hello everyone, intuitive and astrologer Lisa Salvatore here to talk to you about the solar eclipse in Libra, the new moon in Libra that we have taking place on October 2nd and the surrounding energies. First things first, I'd like to give a nice warm welcome to all of my new subscribers. It is lovely to have you here. I would also like to thank my existing subscribers, each and every one of you that continue to allow me to show up and to do this work and to be a part of your journey. Thank you, gratitude to you for allowing me to do what I love. The way that I practice astrology is from the evolutionary astrology perspective and the esoteric astrological perspective. My goal when I am working with individuals is to empower them, to help them bridge the gap between their soul, the true essence of who they are, and their personality and the way that they express themselves. It's about uncovering, it's about discovering, it's about healing. So if you're new to me, I'm so glad that you found me. And if you've been with me before, so glad to have you back. We have a lot of ground to cover as we move into this eclipse. Today that I am recording this, it is September 25th, and this has been a month. Has it not? These last few weeks have felt very accelerated. It's as though time is standing still and speeding up all at once. Everything is heating up. I talked about a lot of this in my September forecast, so I will link that below so you can always go back and listen to that. But relationships of all kinds are a major theme right now. There is a lot of sensitivity in the air. There are things that are coming up to the surface, things that we thought that we have healed from, only to find out that we still have more healing to do surrounding specific situations, surrounding specific relationships. We are all there. As I speak, the sun is moving into an exact conjunction with the South Node. The South Node's currently in the sign of Libra, and there's a very strong emphasis on the energy of release because we're talking about the South Node. And then we're talking about the sun, which is our very identity. So we're talking about release. We're talking about letting go of all of those outdated patterns and behaviors and relationships that are no longer serving our soul. That is not easy. At the same time, there's also a very strong karmic energy where a lot of things are coming full circle. You may be hearing from people from the past. You may have situations from the past coming back up around. And in some cases, it might feel like your energy is being siphoned or like others might be trying to stir the pot, but try to think of it a different way. We are under Libra energy. Try to think of it as there is still some healing in there to do for yourself and that there's more to the story, more to the karmic story. And I think it's really important to mention as we come upon this eclipse because we are in the process of a major cycle that began back in April of 2023, but there's a very strong energy around the victim and the villain. What I mean is, in a story, we can paint ourselves as the victim, or we can feel like we're the victim, and then the other party or the other group or whatever sees us as the villain, and then vice versa. And both may very well be true. So what's coming up right now is this recalibration. There's this reflection of previous energies, previous relationships, previous circumstances coming back around to sift through what is still there so that we can put it to rest for good, for better or worse. In some cases, that could mean severing specific relationships, where for others, there could be reconnection. It really depends on your own unique story. Now, in this video, I'm going to go through the astrology surrounding the solar eclipse, the significance of it, where it's going to fall by sign. I'm also going to show you the chart of the US and how this eclipse is potentially impacting our country's chart, our country's essence. If you are struggling with a particular situation in your life right now and you don't know what to do and you don't have the answer, September 30th, the last day of the month, we have a Mercury cazimi, a superior conjunction of Mercury and the Sun. And this is going to close the month out on a beautiful high note. This is the kind of energy where you want to ask and you shall receive. So again, if you're struggling with something and you need a sign, 29th, 30th, October 1st would be the time to ask for it and be open to how you receive that guidance. It can just be a strong moment of clarity, the aha moment that you need to help propel you forward one way or the other. By the way, if you're interested in getting detailed weekly intuitive astrological forecasts, be sure to sign up for my newsletter. It's linked in the description box below. I go live each Sunday. Let's get right into the eclipse. So this is a solar eclipse, an annular solar eclipse, new moon in the sign of Libra. Takes place on October 2nd at 2:49 p.m. Eastern Time at 10 degrees and 4 minutes of Libra. So you're going to want to check your chart to the part of your chart that contains Libra, specifically 10 degrees of Libra. In the description box below, you can pull up your birth chart by going right through my website. I have tutorials on there. I have a free download that shows you the basics of the houses. So feel free to go there. And if you already know that, just look to the part of your birth chart that contains Libra to see where this energy will manifest for you. And I just want to say, this is not always the same for everyone. Every new moon, every full moon, every transit, it's all different. So some might pass by and you don't really feel anything of note, or you don't notice anything that's that, powerful. Other times it's very subtle. Sometimes it's wham in your face and quite literal. Again, it's going to be different for everybody, dependent upon the current astrology and your own unique astrology. That's why I always promote looking to your birth chart for the answers, for the clues, and for the validation. Technically speaking, astronomically speaking, when we have the solar annular eclipse, annular is the Latin word for fire. So annulus is a Latin word for fire, for ring of fire. And that is where annular solar eclipse comes from, because during this type of eclipse, a solar eclipse, it's when the moon passes between the earth and the sun, but it does not completely cover the sun. It only partially covers the sun. So it's as if the moon appears like on top of the sun as a dark disk. And this phenomenon is what's responsible for the annulus, for that ring of fire. So that's the technicality of an annular solar eclipse. It's really a new moon that is turbocharged, okay? It's when the sun and the moon are exactly aligned by position in the sky, which would be 10 degrees and 4 minutes of Libra. This is a new moon, and new moons are always indicative of new beginnings. However, with this one, because it is so close to the south node in Libra, there's a very strong energy of release and letting go. And what we are letting go of has likely been in effect for the past 18 months. While everybody will experience these energies, it's going to be felt the strongest for our cardinal signs, which are Aries, Libra, Cancer, and Capricorn, and even more specifically if any of your points and or placements fall between 8 and 12 degrees of any of those signs. And this is also the part of a larger story, a story that officially began back in April of 2023. So if you can, reflect back to around April 20th of 2023, when we had our first eclipse, North Node eclipse, new moon in the sign of Aries. And then to go even more deeply, reflect back to this past March and April of 2024, when we had a full moon lunar eclipse in the sign of Libra on March 25th. And then we had the big solar eclipse in Aries on April 8th. So it's worth it to reflect back to those time spans. And it doesn't have to be on those exact dates. Remember that when we're dealing with eclipse energy, we're dealing with like weeks out on either side. But just think back to what was going on in your reality, if anything does come up as being significant, and where you are today, right now, around this eclipse, and how it connects. Also, the growth that has occurred for you. It's always important to reflect upon that. We often don't think we're moving forward until we look back, and then we realize just how far we've come. So it's worth it to go deep and do that work. Now, this might not be the complete ending of a story, but it can be the ending of a chapter of the story, a book that's going to close out when we get to March of 2025, when we will have our final North Node eclipse in Aries, which will be a partial solar eclipse, so new beginnings. So again, yes, this is a new moon. Yes, this is a solar eclipse, but it's also a new moon that's very indicative of endings to make way for those powerful new beginnings. And relationships are such a strong focus right now. And if it's not your relationship with others, it's also your relationship to self, and is our relationship to self. That is definitely under the microscope and has been. It's about how we stand in our power, how we stand in our truth, how we speak up for ourselves or how we do not. It's where we give too much of ourselves or not enough. It's the Aries Libra dance. Selfishness and selflessness both have their place, but we have to find that delicate balance. Now, we will get to the chart in a moment. If you work with gemstones, for this particular new moon, I would suggest working with moonstone. That helps us to stay in sync with the natural cycles, with the natural order of both nature and our bodies. It also promotes a clear connection with our intuition. I'll also pull in clear quartz for clarity and focus, also cleansing. Orange calcite for complete alignment, mind, body, spirit. And aventurine for acceptance and ease through transition, and for trusting that we are doing the right thing for ourselves. Now, again, because this is an eclipse, I do not recommend really setting those strong intentions. I mean, you can reflect and in your mind and in your heart, make a vow to yourself to do something moving forward. But when it comes to eclipses, I just like to lay low. And when I say work with crystals, work with gemstones, I mean just wear them and just focus on positive and focus on what will be, because that's what eclipses are all about. These are the winds of change. This is electrifying energy. What's going to happen is going to happen. And especially with this one, because again, I feel like there are a lot of endings that are imminent around this time, but they're endings that we're already aware of, or we are already aware that they're in the works. We're just having some assistance with it. Again, accelerated motion. So I look at this new moon as wipe the slate clean. I look at it as, okay, so there will likely be potential discord, but also new beginnings. It's about doing the things that we've wanted to do, but have been rooted in either fear or uncertainty. We're likely going to get that information, get the push, the jolt that we need. This eclipse will provide that for us to help to move us forward. And even if it's not just yet, we'll be one step closer. Remember, we're dealing with a cardinal sign. We're dealing with Libra. So the energy of Libra, of a cardinal sign, it's one of being authoritative, because cardinal signs, they take action. They're authoritative. They move things ahead. So pulling the tarot into this, the tarot, the tower, the card, the tower, I wanted to use this card most closely associated with this solar eclipse because there are a lot of tower moments that are occurring. In other words, there's a lot of disruption that's happening. And we could sit there and say, why is this happening? Why is this happening? But when you really stop and when time passes and you look back and the dust settles, you recognize why those tower moments had to happen. And in some cases, we ourselves could be the ones instigating those tower moments, not even consciously knowing why we're doing it, but unconsciously we know why, because our soul needs to be set free in some capacity. And whatever capacity that is, again, is a part of your personal journey. So I do feel that this new moon energy is also providing crucial conversations and crucial cutoffs in some cases. Let me use another C word that might be a little kinder: conversions versus cutoff. Conversations and conversions, if that makes sense. Now let's get to the chart. Here we have the sun and the moon exactly aligned at 10 degrees and 3 minutes of Libra. We see the south node here at 6 degrees. This is how we have the eclipse, new moon close to the south node. And by the way, I want to mention that this is the last new moon that we're going to have this close to the south node for a couple of decades. So this is pretty significant. So as always, paying extra close attention to whom and what comes in and goes out of your life around this time. It's already in effect. So yes, it's a new moon, conjunct the south node in Libra, so there's a very strong energy of release and letting go, and how perfect for this time of year when it's autumn, letting go, harvest. This falls in the second decan of Libra, which means the second third of Libra. And another tarot card that's associated with this new moon, because it's associated with the decan, this decan of Libra, is the Three of Swords. So again, that could just be some potential disappointment, some potential discord. But it's also developing a different kind of relationship to our own mental anguish, to what we keep turning over in our mind. And there's such a strong energy around communication with this eclipse. And we have to be very mindful of how we're communicating and that we're allowing others to communicate their truth to us as well. Because this is how we come into that space of balance. And that is one of the key words for the sign of Libra is balance, recalibration, harmony, also the sign of relationships. We've got Mercury closely conjunct the new moon and the south node. So this is about saying what you need to say, saying it with conviction, but also saying it with compassion. Mercury in Libra is very astute, very articulate, very good with their words, very charming, and usually very precise. There's something here about fact checking. So a lot of contacts and a lot of communications right now, it's going to feel very accelerated, and this is already in effect. Very strong energy of moving on from the past and also our commitments and our connections. What we're committed to, what we're connected to, if we're connected to what we're committed to, and if we're truly committed to what we are connected to. Big themes. We also have this eclipse conjunct Black Moon Lilith. This is about our own authority, our own inner authority, our own sovereignty, our own ability to stand up in our power and in our truth and be who we truly are without fear of judgment. And because Mercury's here as well, we're sharpening our skills. We're sharpening our skills of communication as well. We're thinking before we speak. We're working on it. There's something to be said here about giving each other a break. We've all been hurt. We've all been betrayed. We've also been the hurter or the betrayer, whether we think we have been or not. And we owe it to ourselves and to others to be able to communicate kindly, even if that communication leads to a cutoff. Venus is the ruler of Libra. Therefore, this is a Venus-ruled solar eclipse, which again pulls even more emphasis and energy onto our relationships because Venus is the lover. She's the goddess of love. And Venus is currently over here at 11 degrees of Scorpio. She is deep and intense in those scorpionic trenches. She wants passion. She wants truth above all else. She wants to get to the bottom of everything. She wants intimacy here. But we can't have that without truth, right? We can't have that without those communications and recalibrations. Now, Venus is actually in a lovely position. We've got what we call a grand water trine. We've got Venus here at 11 degrees of Scorpio in a trine to Neptune over here at 28 of Pisces. And then Neptune's trining Mars over here at 15 degrees of Cancer. And Mars is trining back to Venus at 11 Scorpio. That's a grand water trine. This is sweet. This can really soften communications and energies around this eclipse. This lends a very positive vibe to heartfelt conversations, deep, heartfelt conversations. Again, the three key words: connection, commitment, and cooperation. This is also energy of what we believe we can achieve. We are all capable of change. All of us are. But admitting and acceptance are key components to that change. We also have Neptune pretty close to the North Node here, and that can make things feel a little bit extra magical at this time. A lot coming full circle, something happening that you didn't think could happen, and feeling very happy about it. That's a very strong possibility around this eclipse. But just try and stay grounded so that you're seeing things for how they truly are and not just for how you want them to be. Okay, moving along. We've got Uranus here at 26 degrees of Taurus. We've also got fixed star Algol right here at 26 degrees of Taurus. This is an exact conjunction of Uranus and the fixed star known as the blinking demon star, linked with dethroning, beheading, decapitation, violence. Not saying that's going to happen, but I'm pointing it out that this alignment is exact. You may recall that I did a couple of videos back in the summer, and one of them was on the Mars-Uranus-Algol conjunction and potential ways that that could play out. And unfortunately, they did. But Mars was igniting this conjunction. Mars is not igniting the Algol-Uranus conjunction right now, thankfully, and will not again, at least not negatively. So we have that in our favor. But this was the alignment that was exactly impacting Donald Trump. If you recall, I did that video about him. This was in effect and very prevalent in his chart. You can actually go back and listen to it if you haven't. I'm just letting you know that this energy is still very, it's tight right now. And that's significant because fixed stars don't really move. They're fixed in the heavens. And because Uranus moves so slowly, we will not see this again. We are not going to see these aspects again once we are done with them. But they're very defining. All of this to say, just a little extra awareness, mindfulness, and vigilance, especially if you're going to be in situations where you are in large crowds, large groups. Just be conscious. Be careful. Now, this will also be in effect all month long. Uranus and Algol will travel closely together like this, which means that the energy is the strongest all month of October until October 29th, and then Uranus will move back to the 25th degree of Taurus. So they will not be exact, but it will still be close. But now it's exact. Heat is on. It was also exact from July 15th through August 7th, and it will be exact again in 2025 from April 25th through May 12th. But we're not going to worry about that right now. We'll deal with that as it gets closer. And let's not forget that we've got Pluto wrapping up his trek through Capricorn. This is the last time. This is the final pass of Pluto at the 29th degree of Capricorn until we move into Pluto in Aquarius officially in November. I have a whole deep dive into Pluto through the houses, Pluto collectively. I did it with another astrologer friend of mine, not the Perkins. You can find that linked in the description box below. But Pluto at the 29th degree, it's like he's really ramping and wrapping things up, both collectively and personally. Now, I wanted to quickly show you the Sibley chart, the birth chart for the United States of America. So the inner chart is the chart for the United States of America, July 4th, 1776. The outer wheel is how the eclipse is impacting this chart. It's in the 10th house. Okay, the 10th house is the most public space of the chart. This is the face of our nation. This is the trajectory of our nation. This is the future. It's a new moon. It's a solar eclipse, very close to the midheaven. The angle here, very strong. The south node's right here, obviously, because it's a new moon eclipse, solar eclipse. Again, endings and new beginnings that have to do with the way we are perceived out in the world by others, okay? Libra. It's also about legalities. It's about justice, balance, fairness, or lack thereof. So there's a lot of activity going on right now. We know this on the world stage. You can see Pluto here at the 29th degree. Now, we were officially in our Pluto return in February of 2022 when Pluto was exactly at 27 degrees and 33 minutes. But Pluto is here now at the 29th degree, wrapping up a cycle, transformation, deconstruction to reconstruction. It's in the second house of the world finances, economics. The second house is all about our money. It's about our value. It's about our possessions. And in some cases, this can also be about greed, how we've taken advantage of resources in certain ways. This is the house of Taurus. This is also our earth. It's what's tangible. So we've got Pluto here wrapping up a cycle, still excavating. There's still a dying off process that's occurring. We have Saturn moving through the house of communication and opposite the house of foreign travel and foreign communications, import-export. So Saturn's putting pressure here. This is collective. And look at Jupiter exactly on Mars in the 7th house, which is the natural house of Libra, the natural house of others, the natural house of partnerships, contracts, negotiations. And in Gemini, this is a lot of communication, inflation. It's Jupiter. Jupiter is a social planet. So this is about how we are out in the world, our beliefs, expansion in these areas. Mars is how we take initiative. So Jupiter is encouraging action and initiative here. And this is specific to the US because this is the US chart here. This is an energizing aspect. Hopefully, the energizing is going to be toward justice, toward fairness, towards balance, and towards equality, because this is a Libra eclipse. Another thing of note is that when energy is applying, so for example, this new moon is at 10 degrees of Libra, and the sun of the US in the US natal chart, US birth chart, is 13 degrees of Cancer. So this new moon eclipse, solar eclipse, is actually applying to an exact square to the sun in the natal chart of the USA. Why is this so significant? The sun falls in the 7th house of others, of relationships, of peace, of negotiation, of contracts, and most importantly, of open enemies. This is where we know who our enemies are. And when I say we, I'm talking about the United States. We have a solar eclipse here occurring in the sign of Libra, the ruler of the 7th house. Again, negotiations, contracts, communications. The 10th house is also our public face, our reputation, our public standing, our face out in the world, our being our country. And as I mentioned before, this eclipse is also applying towards the natal Saturn of the US. So having this new moon in a square to the sun, applying to a square is a 90-degree aspect between energies, between signs. And that 90-degree aspect, the square, is one of friction. It's one of tension. It's one of challenge. And most of the time when we're dealing with the square aspect, especially by transit, it is more specifically something of an internal force where something from the external creates crisis, and that crisis breaks the conflict, breaks the energy. And so that is how this energy can play out. There's a lot of tension here, but that tension does need to be broken. Pluto is here at the 29th degree. We also want to look back because this doesn't mean that anything's going to happen exactly on this date, but it's applying here, okay? And plus, this new moon also just passed a square to Jupiter. Jupiter expands everything. So this is not just about this solar eclipse, but we want to pull it back to specifically April of last year when we had our first eclipse in Aries. And also going even further back, 2022, when we experienced the official Pluto return, when Pluto was back here at the 27th degree. So this has been in the works for quite some time, these conversations, these communications, and there's something here about stress and tension and frustration and obviously force and action, external action that is likely going to need to be taken. And it could be from being pushed into a corner where it's like, oh no, what have I done? This is not working and we need to change this right now. Now, if action does not happen and the energy just kind of goes on and it wanes, with the waning of that energy is the potential for, constructive action. So I don't know how this is going to play out. I don't think any of us do right now. There are a lot of curveballs, collective curveballs. And let's not forget that Pluto is at this 29th degree, digging it all up from the trenches. Exposure being a key word. So we shall see, right? But no matter how we look at it, this time is a stressful time. It's a chaotic time for the US. Looking at the bright side as it's Libra energy, let's pray for the higher vibration of the Libra energy to prevail, which is justice, peace, equality, cooperation, collaboration, agreeing to disagree, but also trying to come to some form of peaceful resolution. And just like we talked about this eclipse, personally speaking, being all about relationships, it works the same for the energy with the United States. It's all about the relationships that we have with others. There's an emphasis on the importance of maintaining good relationships, or at least somewhat cohesive relationships, and potential peace. So let's see how this shakes out, collectively speaking. And then transiting Mars is also conjunct the sun. in that seventh house of the US chart. And I feel this is about, how we're being seen to others and action and initiation and energy to and from others. But back to the energy of the solar eclipse, justice. Justice, fairness, harmony, balance, that's what we're striving for. Justice is a very karmic tarot card as well. It speaks to setting the record straight, setting the karmic record straight, one way or the other. Justice will be served. Questions to reflect upon around this new moon, particularly by the Libra area of your birth chart. Questions would be, what relationships need tending to? Where do I need to speak up, even and especially if it's to apologize? Remember, victim and villain. Perception is key. Where am I out of balance? Keyword for Libra, balance. And what do I need to commit harder to? Commitment and connection. Now we will go through all 12 signs. I always recommend that you follow your rising sign first for most accuracy, but also follow your sun sign and your moon sign if you know it, because they will more than likely all connect. Aries. Now, for everybody, relationships are of prime focus, but for you, Aries, because this particular eclipse is going to be in your seventh house of partnership of the others in your life, there's an even stronger emphasis on this for you. So there are some new beginnings coming up in one or more important relationships in your life. This could even have to do with a contract. Perhaps you're signing documents, maybe you're moving or getting a divorce or getting married. Something having to do with legalities could be cropping up around this new moon for you. And it can be the continuation of a longer story. So either the beginning or an ending, or both. But all of your relationships are a focus. All negotiations, all contracts, whether they're verbal or whether they're written, these are all into high focus at this time. Taurus, pay very close attention to your physical health, your physical body. If something's out of balance, this is going to be the time where you're going to want to take the initiative to correct it, or you might just do it without even realizing it. Are you happy with your daily life? Are you happy with what you're doing out in the world? Are you happy with your work, whether it's a formal job or not? What are you doing on the regular, day to day? What are your habits, both physically and spiritually? Gemini, what is your relationship to fun, to pleasure, to romance? What are you working on creatively? You're getting ready to birth something, that's for sure. And it will never feel like it's the right time, and you will never feel like you have enough knowledge to do it, but it is the right time. You just have to take the step forward. And if you've been too serious lately, you're going to want to shake it up and have some fun. Cancer, how is your foundation, your emotional foundation? How is your family life? How are the family dynamics? Are you letting people in or are you shutting people out? There's going to be a lot of epiphanies around this new moon. One or more significant relationships are going to come full circle for you, and you're going to have a lot of aha moments and hopefully some resolution and or closure. Home improvements can also be on the forefront. Leo, this new moon solar eclipse can absolutely increase activity in your daily life. This is about your everyday, the community that you're a part of. This is your friends, colleagues, neighbors, contacts, siblings, can be any and or all of the above. There could be a stronger focus on communication or communication projects. You can find yourself more engaged in writing, speaking, intellectual projects, humanitarian efforts. You may experience endings and then some powerful new beginnings in these areas, or you have already experienced an ending and now you're getting ready for some powerful new beginnings. When it comes to any of the relationships I spoke of above and or communication projects or efforts, the way you communicate, the way you express yourself out in the world. This has all been undergoing and will be undergoing some more changes, and these are likely positive for you. You're leaning into your true Leo shine. You can expect a fast-paced movement of events to occur in any of these areas of your life, especially if it's felt stagnant. Just be mindful when communicating about any issues or challenges that you've been experiencing, because they've likely been simmering for quite some while and they could boil over with this solar eclipse. But again, this will lend to a new beginning. Virgo, your relationship to your finances is going to be highlighted around this eclipse. Are you connected to the way that you make money? If you're not, you're going to want to change that. Are you putting too much emphasis on your money? Do you feel like your money is what defines you? Do you feel not of value because you don't have enough? This is not only your financial value, but this is also your emotional value, your spiritual value. Relationships are also a very strong focus for you. I know that I said that they are for all signs, but for you more so. Getting closer with people, getting more in touch with what truly lights you up, that's what's of utmost importance. Spiritual over material. Money is not everything. It does not define our character, and it does not define our soul, nor anyone else's. Libra, this is your new moon. This is your eclipse. Libra, this is your new moon. This solar eclipse is in your first house of self. Very powerful for you. It can feel very emotional at this time as you're recognizing things that have been eclipsed for quite some time. Truths are coming up to the surface. Truths are coming to the table. This may be coming toward you from others in your life, from relationships, from partners, but it also is likely coming up from within you. Emotions that you've been suppressing for a really long time are demanding airtime. You may find yourself moved to tears more than once, and it might be uncomfortable for you. But go with it. New beginnings are imminent. Stay strong and stay centered in your convictions. Be truthful to all, but especially to yourself. Scorpio, you might feel like completely burnt out around this eclipse and exhausted, but at the same time, you're firing up on all cylinders and it's like you can't get enough. You've been going, but around this eclipse, it's really important that you take some time in solitude, soul solitude. Spend time in meditation. Spend time connecting to your higher self, divination. Work with your tarot cards if you do that. It might be a great time to enlist in a new form of therapy for yourself. You've probably had a lot of epiphanies, a lot of recognition about what you've been hiding behind. No judgment there either. Once you shine a light into some of those dark corners, they're not so scary. And this eclipse is going to show you how far you've come. Sagittarius. This eclipse is showing you a different way when it comes to your friendships, when it comes to group dynamics. I feel like a lot of you are going to be saying goodbye to one or more relationship in your life, specifically a friendship. It's run its course. And just remember, the truth shall set you free. Just like Libra, you are a sign, even more so, very much connected to the truth and justice and doing the right thing. The difference with you is that you will just say it. You won't hold back. At least you're not going to want to at this time. And I don't think that you should, but remember to say it kindly. Lead with love, and the truth shall set you free. It's also a great new moon for your networks. So don't be afraid to reach out to those from the past who you've been thinking about. Capricorn. Something regarding your own reputation or the way that other people see you is going to be gnawing at you at this eclipse. It doesn't mean anything negative. It feels like this is coming from within. There could also be all eyes on you when it comes to your work life, your public life, and you could feel very pressured because of that. I also feel that the work and home life balance needs to recalibrate. And there's going to be a lot of emphasis for that for you around this new moon. And this does feel like it's a continuing situation, for better or worse. Balance must be restored here. So if you've been feeling really low on energy or even maybe slightly depressed or melancholy, look to the personal and professional areas of your life to where you may need to rebalance the scales. Aquarius, this feels like a very expansive eclipse for you. You're recognizing things about yourself and you're very proud of yourself. You're very proud of your progress. Some of you might be getting ready to take that trip that you've been wanting to take or to enroll in that new course. It's time. Pisces. This eclipse feels particularly emotionally illuminating for you. Intimacy is highlighted. Your intimate bonds, your most intimate connections, and the ones you've been avoiding out of fear. Your relationship to intimacy, to sex, to bonding. A lot is coming up for you around these areas. For some, this could have to do with resources that you share with another, but I still feel like this is going to connect to intimacy, to intimate relationships, intimate bonds, and where you might be blocking them out of fear. Like I said to Scorpio, this is a perfect time to enter into some form of alternative therapy, some form of therapy in general. It's only going to make you stronger. And don't be afraid to let go. There you have it, the solar eclipse new moon. I hope that this was helpful. I hope that this supports you. Remember, I put out a lot of content, so please go back on my channel, check out my website. I have a free download for the basics of the houses in the birth chart. It's linked under my courses and products, which is linked in the description box below, along with all of my other links. I'm sending so much love, peace, blessings to everyone. Stay strong. The energy is a lot right now. I know that it is. But just trust that we are always where we are supposed to be. Take good care. Bye.